Welcome in, guys, to episode 48 of the Advisor Odyssey podcast. Today's episode, we're talking about some different tips, and 8 to be specific, 8 tips to increase the return on investment, the ROI, from your radio show or your radio commercials and your radio ads. Doesn't matter which of those you're doing. We're going to talk about how to increase the return on that because I get it. It can be expensive to be on radio. But when it comes down to profitability, that's really what matters most at the end of the day. So stay tuned, guys. We got a great episode. Again, 8 tips to improve the ROI from your radio show and commercials.
This is the Advisor Odyssey audio experience, where financial advisors, planners, insurance agents, and brokers will find fresh new ideas and perspectives around what it takes to launch, succeed, scale, and bulletproof their business.
All right, guys, so jumping into the very first tip on how to improve the ROI from your radio show. Tip number 1 is create separation by using them versus me language. Now, what this might sound like is the advisors that you're meeting with now might be telling you X, but I'm telling you Y. Using this specific language creates differentiation. Suddenly, people are going to perk up because it is basically it's framing the opposite. The brain's naturally going to hear everyone else is saying this, I'm saying this. Everyone else is doing this, I'm doing this. People are naturally attracted, and quite frankly, they're usually intrigued by the nonconformist. So what is this person doing? What are you about to say that's different? And if you notice a lot of headlines, whether it's articles or blog posts or social media posts, they say things like, before doing this, do this. Or it's time that we stop doing this. Right? It's appealing to the nonconformist. It's appealing to the rebel. So create separation by using them versus me language. Okay. And a potential example of that might be something like, hey, while everyone's telling you that it's time to review your Medicare, I'm telling you before reviewing your Medicare, we need to check A, B, and C. Right? Everyone's telling you IUL is the best investment to roll with, and I'm telling you, hey, it might be, but we need to look at this instead. Right? Yes, it is siloed language sometimes, and there is a disclaimer here where you need to check with your compliance teams. You need to make sure that you can say certain things like this. But when you use that type of language, you're going to garner more attention because ultimately at the end of the day, above all else, what we're trying to do on radio is simply sound different. Sound different than everyone else. It can be a very, very overworked, overused language and terms can be oversaid. So you need to say something different and sound different. And the best way to do that is to frame the listener to say, they're saying this, but I'm saying this instead. Okay, so that was tip number 1. Tip number 2 here to improve the ROI from your radio show is using simple language swaps. More specifically, changing if you to when you. This is the simplest language swap that fits 99% of scenarios that you would ever say it. We naturally want to say, if you're worried about this, okay? Simply saying, when you become worried about this, that's going to immediately garner you more attention as well. It's going to put that listener in a frame to where, this isn't really an if situation. This is, yeah, I've been thinking about this lately. Or, yeah, I've been thinking I need to review this. Or, yeah, I've been thinking I need to talk to someone about this. Yeah, I should probably review that. Whatever it is, simply saying if you or replacing if you with when you will create results for you. Now, if you do that, did you get what I did there? When you do that, when you simply change that, you're going to be looking for a different perception, and that is what you're going to give to the listeners. So again, change if you to when you, and then also look for more language swaps that you can use consistently. Make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, please take a minute and check out the link in the description here to subscribe to my weekly newsletter called The Weekly Voyage, where we are featuring, we're highlighting an article that just came out the week prior. We're featuring the podcast episode if you haven't seen it yet. Plus, we're sharing a multiple of 2, 3, sometimes 4 brand new ideas that have not yet been shared that can only help you grow your business and build the practice of your dreams. Now, again, the link is in the description. It is called the Weekly Voyage Newsletter, and it is on LinkedIn and through LinkedIn's newsletter platform. Tip number 3 is whenever you're giving your call to action, And it doesn't have to be the major call to action. This could be the micro call to actions that you just say throughout your show, or if it's an ad, you're going to have one major call to action. But throughout your show, you might say a couple different smaller call to actions. Whatever it is, you need to paint a very clear picture of exactly what your listener should expect when they take action. Okay? So very simply, many of you on the radio might be saying, schedule a consultation with us or schedule a meeting with us for us to review your financial portfolios, right? Very common call to action at its core. You might use different language, which hopefully you do, but common call to action, right? You need to follow up that call to action with, here's what you can expect when you come in to meet with us. And then be really specific. You don't have to draw it out, but list out 3 things. The first 3 things that will happen when someone comes in to meet with you. That could be, and I'm going to make this up on the spot here, but when you schedule that initial 30-minute consultation to meet with us, you can expect that you'll have a parking spot ready with your name on it, so you won't have to look around for where to park. You can expect that Susie, who you'll first meet at the front desk, is going to welcome you in and offer you something to drink or something to snack on while you wait, and then during your meeting. And then third, you can expect that I'm going to get to know you, that my team is going to get to know you, and we're going to ask you some questions to better understand not just your financial world, but we want to know who you are as a person. So we're going to ask you things like, how did you meet your spouse? How old are your kids? What do you like to do for fun? What did you do for a living, or what do you do for a living? This is what you can expect when you meet with us. Now, again, that was just an example, but find what makes you unique. And this is, a lot of advisors can sometimes struggle with clearly articulating what separates them from other advisors. And I say clearly because saying things like customer service, or we're a small boutique firm, or we really care about our clients, that doesn't differentiate you to others. I mean, it might be something that you know is a differentiator, but to the actual clients, to the prospects you're meeting with, that's not really a buzzword for them. But if you can clearly articulate that by saying things like, you'll have a parking spot when you show up, Susie at the front desk will offer you this, and on your second appointment, she'll remember what you ordered. Those are suddenly how you can differentiate yourself. And again, that was my 3rd tip. The 4th tip on how to increase the ROI from your radio show and your commercials and ads, etc., is using 3 simple questions. Like, ask them in your head and put them out, lay them out during your show, during your ad. And those are when, will, and do I. Now let's break that down a little further. Using the word when is a statement of this will happen. So for example, when you retire, or when your kids go off to college. Okay, it's a statement of fact, and it might not be a fact to every single person listening. Some might have no kids, some might have kids that don't go to college, some might already be retired. Point is, we're using that language of when blank. Then the second piece is will, right? When you retire, will you have enough saved? When your kids go off to college, will you be able to pay for it? Right, now we add that second layer, when and will. And our third piece is, do I? When I retire, will I have enough saved? Do I know what I actually need in retirement? When my kids go off to college, will I be able to fund it? Do I have a plan? And quite frankly, the term, do I have a plan, could fit in any scenario. Now, if you address the when, the will, and the do I's on your show, you're going to get more engagement. Now, this is tracked. There's actual analytics and real research that backs this up. But this was a unique finding in this research study, but when you talk about the why, as soon as you add in any element of why this is important, or why someone needs this, or why this matters, you start to box yourself in to whatever that listener, whatever that prospect's frame of reference is. So in that same example, when my kids go off to college, will I be able to pay for it? Do I have enough saved up? Because this is important to me. Because my kids need the education. Because I believe, as soon as you add that because, which is another way of saying why, That's where you're going to create detachment from your listeners. So again, the why is best reserved for during your actual meetings, when they can see you, when you can read their body language, when you can have open dialogue. If there's any, disagreement, we can call it. However, the when, the wills, and the do-Is are best used in your marketing in general, not just on radio. But that was the tip. Moving on here, our 5th tip is when you take the future context out of something and you bring it into the present, you will first and foremost create urgency, but secondly, you will also highlight the importance of it without even really signifying why it's important. What I mean by that is, now is the time to maximize your 401k contributions. Now is the time to move your money into safer investment vehicles. Now is the time to meet with a tax professional before the tax laws change, right? When we say now is the time, you're going to bring into the forefront the present importance of it. While this is actually, I will tell you that of all the tips that I have laid out for you, this is one that's probably the least results-driven one, as in a lot of people are already doing this. But if you're one of the ones who's not, it's time to start doing it. Okay. Now is the time for blank. Now is the time to do blank. Your listeners need to know that their window of opportunity is open now. The open sign is on, the door is flung open. Now, there should be that feeling of urgency associated with your message. And there's a huge difference between urgency and scare tactics. We're not trying to scare anyone. We're not playing that game. I wouldn't even call it a game. That's just a terrible thing to do. But when you actually highlight the urgency of it and you make sure that people understand the time is now, like if it's fact, it's fact. The time is now, right? Taxes are due. I think April 18th is the day they're due this year. So the time is now. Like it's a matter of fact. Like if you don't have it done by the 18th, it's late. So anyways, bring it into the present. Take the future element out of it. Hey guys, quick note here. I'm going to be recording a podcast episode to air somewhere around May 31st, where we're going to be talking about advisor websites. And as part of that show, I'm actually going to be doing an audit on whomever wants to send me their website to actually look through, scan through, and give my real feedback on. So if you're interested in getting some totally genuine, honest, and free feedback on how I think that your website looks, how it functions, how it could be better, and actually get some tangible advice that you could take back to your website designer, whomever that may be, please send me the link to your website via whether it's social media or if it's an email, whatever it is. Send me your website and I'll give it a quick look over. My 6th tip here is very quickly, just give them next steps. This is not just reserved for your call to action, but whatever you talk about, whatever your topic is, whatever your call to action is, it doesn't matter what it is that you're discussing. There should always be steps to the back end tied to it. If you're talking about, the best credit cards out there for rewards benefits, or, the opposite side of that, how to get out of credit card debt, you give next steps. People want next steps. And that first step shouldn't be to meet with you. Don't make that mistake. The first step, honestly, I would say the first at least 3 steps, 2 to 3 steps, if not 4, should be things that someone could easily do on their own. And the term easily might not be the best word to use there, but if it's credit card debt, for example, they're trying to get out of, step 1 is, review your budget. Step 2, stop using the credit card for a minute. Step 3, talk with a professional. Those are the 3 steps, right? But give them actual 1, 2, and 3. Don't begin it with, call us for step 1. So you cannot expect someone to know exactly what to do next. You also cannot expect someone to take a huge first step. Simple as that. Our 7th tip to increase the ROI from your radio show is tracking your call to actions to see which one is best, and that's the one that you keep delivering. That's the one that you keep using. This is actually probably the biggest tip I could provide on this, because I still talk with advisors, and these are incredibly successful advisors who have been on radio for a long time. One of the most influential conversations that I've ever had, and this was new to me at the time when I heard this and learned it, this advisor had stopped giving so many different call to actions on the radio. And the mindset initially was, I want to appeal to this group, or I want to appeal to that group, or now I want to get this person's attention. But I mean, a couple of things that they pointed out to me was, number one, you're not going to have a lot of return listeners, more than likely. You'll have a small group of them, but especially if your show's on like a Saturday morning, for example, or a Sunday, you're going to have a lot of, new listeners from here and there. It's driving from, driving to their grandkids' soccer game, or maybe they're driving into, Sam's Club or Costco to buy their groceries. You're going to have a lot of first-time listeners. And so you need to know which call to action is your best lead and appointment generating call to action, and keep delivering that. Just keep delivering it over and over and over again. And so because you're tracking the data, which if you're not, again, you should be, you will know which call to actions are best, and you don't have to waver from those. It's like, if we take it into baseball terms, it's we're a little past opening day at the time this airs, but when a pitcher knows their best strikeout pitch, they tend to try to set up the batter for strikeout on that pitch. They don't lead with it all the time. They don't go somewhere else all the time. They'll waver here and there, but they are typically trying to set up that batter to swing and miss on whatever their best strikeout pitch is. That is just like you in marketing. Make them swing on whatever your best pitch is. My last tip on how to increase the ROI from your radio shows is very simply just to stay relevant. Stay relevant with what's going on. You can record a lot of shows and turn them into like evergreen content. They can be airing again and again and again. Find those topics. I hit on that so much in all of my podcasts, my articles, my social media, whatever I'm trying to deliver the message out to, my listeners, to the advisors I work with. It is always create evergreen content and track what works and keep using it. However, we do want to have items either pre-recorded that we can use when it's needed, or we want to be able to have the freedom and ability to hop on and do something sporadic. In other words, when the war, when the Russia-Ukraine war, when that popped off, be relevant, talk about it. When inflation all of a sudden, hit a high, or when the Fed drops, a new bomb about interest rates rising, talk about it right then and there. You might have interest rate rising or interest rate in general topics that you've pre-recorded or have videos around or whatever it is. But when it happens, be the first to do it. A message I always tell my advisor clients that I work with is whenever there's breaking financial news, your clients should hear from you first. If they hear it from the news first, or if they hear it from another advisor, especially, you missed the boat. Now, while yes, we're talking about radio, they're not going to be the first to hear about something from you, sure. But when you stay relevant, you increase your odds of being the first one to share something with them. And you're also just part of being relevant is people are most curious about things that are happening right now. I mean, we're at a point, eventually people are curious about historical events, but I mean, if you polled most of your clients now and you asked them, would you be more interested in hearing about what happened, during the 2008 collapse versus what happened to the markets in 2020? They'll probably tell you 2008. Why? Because it was further back in time. 2020 is still too recent. But again, staying relevant has its perks and it is super valuable. And those are the 8 tips, guys, for maximizing the ROI on your radio shows, and whether it's your show, your commercial, your ads. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been valuable for you. Please take care.
We hope you enjoyed the Advisor Odyssey audio experience. Connect with us on your favorite social media platforms at Advisor Odyssey. You can find our full-length educational videos to watch on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out all our articles and publications on medium.com/Advisor Odyssey. The Advisor Odyssey podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The contents and opinions shared, expressed, or otherwise alluded to on the Advisor Odyssey podcast and audio experience are solely ideas and not to be depicted as tax, legal, or investment advice. Results from the use of these concepts may not be representative of the experience of all financial professionals and are no guarantee of future success. Your results may vary. The Advisor Odyssey and its affiliated members are not to be held liable or responsible for any lawful recourse or punishment invoked upon the individual or accompanying business partners or team members. Federal law, state law, and/or insurance carrier requirements may prohibit or place limitations on any of the ideas and activities expressed. All advisors, planners, wholesalers, affiliated reps, and investment advisors should be aware of any limitations imposed by federal regulation, state regulation, insurance carriers, broker-dealers, and registered investment advisors as applicable. Investment advisors are strongly encouraged to obtain pre-approval from the broker-dealer, registered investment advisor, insurance company, or similar institution with which they may be affiliated.